Well, we've got something we are going to present to you to talk about today. And as always, you need to just pick that ball up and run with it and make the show great again. Hi, Jerry Usher with Debbie Georgianni on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Thank you, affiliates. Thank you, listeners. Thank you to our show team. Rich, Jeff, I think Matt is back with us. Michael.
Matt Kabinski,
Tom,
yeah.
Matt,
Michael, Tom.
Michael. And so, yeah,
Jeff, Jack, Deborah. Who else? The whole team.
Yeah. Well, hey, Deb, it's Friday, so I thought this would be a good topic for us to present. Yeah, first Friday. Thought this might be a good topic for us to present as we head into a weekend, because some people are going to be looking for a little leisure time and maybe to unplug a little bit from the hectic pace of the world.
Yeah, we're asking you today, how do you unplug? Could you educate us today? We really want to be motivated by you, influenced by you, because this is your show. So you have a very important role on Take Two. And it's really very simple. All you have to do is call this number and you'll speak to Matt Kabinski, who we love. I mean, we literally, when we say this, we mean it. We talk to Matt just because we can. He's such a nice person to talk to. And we ask you to call in and share your wisdom on this, how you unplug, how you kind of go off the grid, so to speak. You get away from technology, social demands, the work pressures, even some maybe family issues. You just kind of step away and get back to center. We want to know how you unplug. Here's the number, 1-800-585-9396. Phone lines fill up quickly, so don't hesitate.
Yeah, and we could be talking about just a few minutes during the day. When you slip away, maybe you wake up a little bit before the rest of your family in the morning. Spend a few minutes in prayer, or at lunch, or in the evening. It could be anything on sort of a day-to-day basis. But also, we're talking about maybe some more significant moments of unplugging, like are you a camper? Do you like to go camping? Do you like to go fishing or hunting or hiking? Or have you taken a retreat or a pilgrimage? I mean, it is so important, and Debbie, I think it is so difficult in today's world for us to understand the significance of just kind of shutting the world out a little bit. Jesus did it. The Bible talks about Jesus, says Jesus got away from even his most intimate friends, his disciples and apostles. So, dear listeners, we want to know, do you do any of these things? And if so, how does that refresh you? And really, are you able to kind of let everything go, or do you sort of take some of those things with you in the back of your mind, some of those worries and concerns?
When I used to do day retreats, Jerry, we used to ask the participants we had a basket at the door, and we would ask them to leave all their phones and anything they had that was technology related. We used to ask them to leave it in the bucket, and we made sure that we said it's very safe. We're going to lock it up in the office. Don't worry. And I cannot even begin to tell you the amount of excuses that adults had. There were so many. You don't understand. I have a great aunt who's sick, and I have to be, I have to have that phone on. I'll put it on vibrate. Or you don't understand. And that's how they'd start every single excuse. And it was, but once they did it, after a couple, we asked them after a couple hours, do you miss it? And they're like, not really. They felt, there was a sense of peace, and they just felt, just really relaxed. And it's a great thing to do. And sometimes I think we should just practice that on a daily basis in our homes, just to take certain amounts of time and block it out and say, no technology during this time block. I don't know. It's just an idea that I know that other folks have incorporated in their home, rituals, if you will. So we want to hear from you. How do you unplug? Tell us exactly, your method that gets you, like Jerry said, it recharges your spiritual and physical bodies. I mean, do you hike? Do you just go to adoration? Or do you take that time to make a 2-day retreat? That really does need to be a priority, Jerry. You do have to make some sacrifices to make that retreat. But I'll tell you what, like I said it before, I think folks should go on at least 2 retreats a year.
Well, yeah, and it's not always easy to carve out that time, but it is so important for us to do that. I think God is worthy of that. So here's the number. It's 1-800-585-9396. Again, how do you escape just kind of just everything, the world, the hustle and bustle, the noise, all of that stuff. It could be as simple as just going to the gym, put your earbuds on and get a good workout. Or my sister, God rest her soul, she used to have several books going at one time, and I would see her, she would just escape to her favorite little chair and just spend some time, reading for an hour during the day. And by the way, I want to mention today is 20 years ago today that Catholic Answers Live went on the air, and I was part of that show, the launch of that show. I'll actually be on the show during the first hour today, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. 20-year anniversary of Catholic Answers Live today. And I mention it to congratulate them, but also to say that the founder and former president of Catholic Answers, Carl Keating, was and still is, Debbie, a master at getting away. He's a hiker and a biker and a camper, and he's always going. And I used to think about him doing these things, and I thought, how neat, how cool. But I never made that transition in my mind and my heart to, I need to be doing those things, So, dear friends, we want to hear from you. Do you escape to the outdoors? Do you just get out there and you just throw that line in the water and you're fishing, or you're hiking somewhere and you're just looking at the grandeur of creation and just marveling and just saying, God, I see your hand in all of this. And the worries of the world just kind of melt away. Teach us here today, because so many of us, myself included, I don't make the time to do this. So I want to learn from you how you do it, and that will certainly inspire me and many others to maybe make that step and take the time.
So here's the number. We're quite friendly. It's a very enjoyable experience. 1-800-585-9396. That's the number to get on the show. You can also text us. You text the letters EWTN to 55000. You can also weigh in on Facebook or YouTube. You can email us. You email us at take2, the number 2 at EWTN.com. Whichever way you find it that works for you, we really have to learn from you. Okay, Jerry and I do not want to spend the entire hour kind of sharing our stories. You have much more wisdom than we could ever impart. So call in 1-800-585-9396. This is your show, Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. When we come back from this short break, we're going right to the phones.
Hey, this is Doug Keck, EWTN President and Chief Operating Officer. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from all of us at the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
We know you like listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio, but have you thought about bringing them to your next event? No matter what type of event you're hosting, parish mission, conference, or retreat, trust Jerry and Debbie to make it come alive. Begin the process today of taking your presentation to the next level of success. For information on booking Jerry and Debbie, visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo.
EWTN Radio Classics is our 24/7 teaching and devotionals channel straight from the EWTN archives. Go Classic with EWTN Radio Classics online at EWTNradio.net and on the EWTN app.
The Reason for Our Hope with Father Larry Richards.
You do realize, of course, that when Jesus Christ said, "Call no man Father," he did not mean priests. And again, sometimes people go crazy over this word and says, "Oh, I won't dare call you Father because the Word of God says call no man Father." And it had nothing to do with it. They did not call priests at that time Father. St. Paul was the first one to use that term, "Am I not your Father who begot you?" But when Jesus sits there and uses this term, he's not saying that you shouldn't call any person on earth your father. It's in a teaching thing. What he meant was, you should not call that person who had sex with your mother and begot you your father, because they're not. That guy you call your dad, he's the sacrament of fatherhood. He's the instrument of fatherhood, but he's not your father. There's only one Father for everybody, God the Father.
Friday edition of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. talking about unplugging, kind of leaving the world, setting the world aside for a few minutes, maybe an hour, maybe a weekend, maybe a week by going on a hiking trip, a camping trip. Debbie, I know we're on in a lot of areas where there are hunters. I'd love to hear how people, maybe hunting is kind of a release for you, kind of a spiritual experience, getting out there, with God and providing for your family and that means, or again, just getting away for a hike and enjoying the beauty, the majesty of nature and creation. So again, it could be momentary during the day or maybe a more significant way of getting away from the world. How is that? How does that bless you and help you recharge your spiritual and physical batteries? 1-800-585-9396.
Okay, so before we go to the phones, how do you unplug, Jerry?
I go to the gym every day. Yeah. I swim a quarter, actually about a third to a half a mile every day at the gym. And believe it or not, I'm praying Hail Marys and the Divine Mercy Chaplet as I'm going up and down through the lengths of the pool. And I know that's not really really totally unplugging or anything. There's other people around and stuff, and I'm not alone. But
it's relaxing.
It's sort of an escape for me. But like I said earlier, it's been so long since I've done any meaningful hiking or camping or anything, which I did all the time when I was a kid, and I loved it. It was just so cool. We had these older, our friends had older siblings, and they were adults, and they would take us out camping and hiking and fishing and stuff. And I really miss it. So this show is prompting me to think about doing some of that stuff again.
Well, wait a minute. We're going to have a campfire chat at the retreat, the Stand Tall retreat. That's close, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why you came up with that portion of the retreat. And by the way, for our listeners, the Stand Tall retreat is coming up February 9th through the 11th. We still have some openings. We'd love for you to join us. Just go to jerryanddebbie.com. jerryanddebbie.com. All the information is there. We'd love to see you. It's going to be a great weekend. Okay, Scott is first up in Brown Lake, Minnesota. Hi, Scott. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, too.
Thank you.
Well, Scott, being in a name like Brown Lake, Minnesota, I'll bet you've got some unplugging stories you can tell.
Oh, I have tons. I'm a cub master, and I've got 36 boys, and we go camping 3 times a year, and that's how I do my chill time, and all that, reacting with the kids and all that, and just, relaxing.
So, Scott, this is probably a self-answering question. Did you go through Scouts yourself? I mean, is this something that you have kind of, continued because you had the same experience when you were growing up?
Oh, yeah, and all that, but I just get to enjoy to have the boys having fun and camping and, getting a little piece of the world out of the way and just going out and having a campfire.
Scott, I used to be a youth minister for many, many years. And when we used to go on retreat with the teens, they would always, when we drove back with the buses, they actually had quite a bit of sadness because they didn't want to kind of plug back into the world. Do you find that with the Cub Scouts?
I find it, but then we have more meetings, and then they come to the meetings and they still have fun. It's an experience that they can come back and bring to the meetings, and then they want to go again. So it's like,
right.
Then we just plan another trip, and they look forward to another camping trip.
Nice.
Another quick question, Scott, if you don't mind. I mean, how have the attitudes and behaviors of the young people maybe changed in the last? I don't know how long you've been doing this, but obviously we have gadgets and technology, and it's sometimes hard for kids to set those things aside. So how have you seen maybe a transition in their lives? To maybe has it become a little bit more difficult for them to escape and get away and kind of quiet themselves, or are they eager to do that?
Oh, after a few times, they didn't care. They'd rather leave them in the vehicles.
Awesome.
And all that, because I only had a group of 5 boys, and it was going to close up, and I'm up to 36 Cub Scouts, and, they're bringing their friends, and they're having more fun, doing other things.
That's great.
Well, it keeps you young, Scott. I'll tell you that. When I was in youth ministry, I felt like I was a kid.
Oh, you have to be a kid. You have to keep thinking you're a kid, because if they don't think you're a kid, then they don't want you in the group.
Exactly. You got to play amongst them. I know. That's awesome. What a great ministry you're in, because that is really a ministry, because you're influencing these young minds and, teaching them just great values and morals. And I think that's wonderful. I really commend you for that. That's a great vocation to to do, especially because, I mean, so many of our children, they don't have really good role models sometimes to look up to. And you being that, Scott, I think that's wonderful. And it sounds like you're very devout in your faith as well. And so that's just all the more better.
So, well, thank you.
Thank you,
guys
Scott.
Have a pleasant day.
Yeah, you too. Have a great weekend. 1-800-585-9396. See, folks, how easy it is. Just get on and share your take about whatever it is, how you escape, unplug. Maybe you help other people like Scott with the Cub Scouts. Maybe you are a youth minister, or you take young people on retreats or pilgrimages. Or how do you just get away from the world? And do you find it hard to do that? You know, I'd love to hear from anybody who maybe you had to fight through the temptation to say, I'm too busy. I can't do it. I can't afford the time. And then you made the time and you went, wow, you know, I can't believe it took me so long to do that. 1-800-585-9396.
You never asked me how I unplug.
How do you unplug, Debbie?
I love to take long rides. I love to drive.
In your car, okay.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I don't know why. I just love that. I love, this is probably terrible. You probably don't want to be on the road with me when I'm driving, because I love to look at the scenery. I just love taking that all in and driving on just not a busy road, you know, kind of a rural road. I just love it. Yeah. It's very relaxing. Do you like driving?
I do, yeah, but not in traffic, as we've discussed many times on the program.
Okay. I get that. Okay, Don, you're next up in Buffalo, New York, listening on the Station of the Cross. Hi, Don. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, folks. Good to talk to you again. Happy New Year. I'm
Happy
the
New Year.
technology person you talked about a while back, or we talked a few times in the past, but you have a great show, and I really always enjoy listening to you and everything else. But what I did want to bring up is what you just said, Debbie. I thought it was great. You know, you'd like to check out the scenery and the back roads as a good way of unwinding. But what I like to do when the weather does cooperate, of course, being in the sub-zero weather, as you folks are, I'm a little jealous of you right now, but it's supposed to get warmer next week. But anyway, I like to get out and enjoy the relax and just taking a stroll down the country roads and, you know, enjoying it that way. And then a couple other things, too, up near Niagara Falls. Of course, they got the shrine up there for the, the Fatima Shrine up there, which is great. You know, I try to get up there and see it. It's a little ways from my place. And then, of course, just going to a couple of the basilicas. You got the Basilica in Lackawanna, just below Buffalo. And, of course, I'm a little closer to Olean, so they got the new Basilica there now, what they just declared. Of course, the church has been there quite a while. And of course, you know, just spending time, in front of, the Blessed Sacrament. You know, if I just do it for a few minutes, try to wind away, and, you know, it really, settles me in, just not to think about anything else, and, just go from there, and that's all I can think of right off.
Well,
but,
and Don, you mentioned Niagara Falls, and Debbie and I have both been there. I've been there several times. I don't know how many times Debbie has been there, but I will tell you that is absolutely, I mean, just to go there, and I mean, the wind gets to blowing and the falls and the mist in your face and your hair, and it's just refreshing, and you can't help but just kind of forget about everything else in the world, because you're just there in front of the majesty of God, and just you're feeling it, because, like I said, the mist is in your face and the wind blowing your hair. And
Right.
Debbie, you're laughing because I remember when
it.
we were there. You were just having the worst time.
Don, it was hilarious. Jerry and I, Jim and Joanne Wright, the founders of the Station of the Cross, wanted us to take a picture in front of Niagara Falls, and we loved it. And Jim and Joanne were trying to line Jerry and I up just perfectly so you could catch the stream going down and the wind and everything. And Jerry doesn't have any real hair on his head, so he didn't have to worry. But I had long hair at the time, and it was like Jerry taking a picture with Cousin It, because my hair was. Do you remember that, Jerry?
I remember. That's why I knew you were laughing.
It was hilarious, Don. I don't know how anybody takes pictures. I know that when they get married, people take pictures at Niagara Falls. How is that even possible, Don?
Yeah, I've enjoyed going there in the past, and didn't go there too much. Just go by. There was a conference there. Well, that was one with Father Wade Menezes. That was the last time I was there a few years ago. They had a conference there, and I kind of went over and took a look there. And I know right recently with this frigid weather here a few days ago, the Buffalo paper showed them with it iced over and everything else. I say, well, if you folks really want to enjoy it, which a lot of them did, even though there were some from out of the country and enjoying the sun. Luckily that day sunny, but geez, I wouldn't want to be out there too long, just to, enjoy it. Because I know you folks probably seen it in the nicer weather, but
right.
I know what you're. It's.
Well, I did. Don, I saw it on the news last night, actually, and I thought, my goodness. And by the way, Debbie and I continue to pray for everybody being impacted by this unbelievable, spell of winter weather that you're all having on the East Coast. So our prayers are with you. But wow, it was just absolutely gorgeous. The falls, like you said, a lot of the area there iced over and just absolutely just majestic, all in white. So, Don, thank you. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate that, your participation always, every time you call, and your listenership. Don. And support of the Station of the Cross. Talking about getting away, unplugging, refreshing, recharging. How do you do it? How does it help you kind of get back into the routine of things of life? 1-800-585-9396. And how do you find God in all of the ways that you escape? All right, Debbie is in Plymouth, Michigan. She has us on Ave Maria Radio. Hi, Debbie. Welcome. You're next on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
Oh, I'm just fine, and thank you for your time. Well, I just want to say I am intentionally not plugged in. Now, I am a single person. I'm 61. I don't mind saying my age. But I do have a flip phone that I'm using right now, and I usually make calls from my car. And then I have a landline at home, and so I catch up with family and friends usually in the evening. And but I purposely don't want anything else. I have the internet at the library. I used to have it at home a few years back. It got a virus, and ultimately I never, got it back. And I am so filled with joy not being, if you will, chained to technology. And I know there's family members that have to have a lot of communication, so I'm not, saying that it's not important.
Sure.
But I don't even text. So I am so free, and I don't mean to go on and on here, but I'll just tell you briefly. I have to join in with Debbie to say that when I'm in Michigan, and when I'm able, I love. There's many roads that I can take where there's a place, in fact, just outside of where I live in Plymouth, called Hines Drive, and it's a 40-mile-an-hour all trees for about 40 miles. And but I love to go to, when I'm able, up to Lake Huron or Lake Michigan, and when I'm in my car in that regard, generally more the summer months. It's just so awesome to be able to just talk literally in your car to our Lord and our Blessed Mother, listen to beautiful Catholic songs, listen to Catholic radio, and pray the rosary. And so I, do find that I have so much more joy in my life. I used to be a little bit, if you will, plugged in. I was in an office world for 33 years, so I dealt with a lot of email, etc. But so anyway, I just wanted to say I'm intentionally unplugged, and I love it.
I love that. Intentionally unplugged. Debbie, that is awesome. Yeah. See, Deb, you and I both have that same, we love that, to go into the cars and just to have that time. If you and I were driving together, we wouldn't be speaking, though. We would just be in the car just enjoying what's around us. But I think that is awesome that you do that. And you're right. In where you live, you have such beautiful, beautiful roads and the scenery. And I agree with that. I think that is very healthy. So many times we race to get in our cars and race to get from point A to point B, but we don't take that time just to enjoy what's around us. Right. And I'm right with you, Deb. I'm absolutely right with you. I'll come up there to Michigan and we'll go on a nice long drive.
Well, I would have to say, if you were in the car, we'd be talking everything Catholic and sharing our lives. But, that's a joy as well to have, Catholic friends that you can share the faith and, of course, pray the rosary together. And one other detail, I generally am involved in a 54-day rosary novena, although I do add intentions along the way. And so that is something in the evening, that I, have the time and focus. So, praying as an intercessor, in other words. And so, and the ultimate goal is to always, throughout the day even, to have that union with our Lord and our Blessed Mother. And so the point being, when so many people are distracted by all this technology, you're lacking that space and time to connect with our Lord and our Blessed Mother. So that's the biggest reason why I choose not to be, and again, being a single person, it's much easier, I realize, but I purposely choose not to be electronically plugged in. and I, have the freedom to make the calls when I need to. I have voicemail both with my landline and my cell, so it's not like I'm cut off. So I feel a tremendous amount of freedom in that.
Yeah, and Debbie, you're really pointing to, I think, the key that we were hoping to get to in this conversation, and that is it's not, quieting ourselves, getting away, unplugging just for its own sake. That part of it is all good and well and refreshing and so forth, but really we see that, God provides us, God rested on the seventh day himself, and he gives us the command, to have that day of rest, that Sabbath, that time to really refresh our souls, our bodies, our spirits. And so this is really what it's about. And you're using it for that and so much more, and also for a lot of time in prayer. And so we thank you for sharing that. We just ask you to include us in your prayer intentions if you would, and we will absolutely do the same for you. Thanks, Debbie, for the call. Take two with Jerry and Debbie, getting back to your calls here in just a minute.
EWTN, communicating the faith.
Here's one thing that I would recommend, what I call gap time. So, for example, you're driving in the car. When you're at home, maybe doing dishes, what are you listening to on the plane? See, I use all those gap opportunities and fill those gaps with things that are going to strengthen and deepen my faith. So I listen to EWTN podcasts all the time because I also want to learn and grow and deepen in my faith.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Jesus called the Holy Spirit the Advocate. An advocate is one who builds you up. He's got your back, and he'll go to bat for you. The opposite of an advocate is an accuser. Revelation calls the devil the accuser. An accuser deflates you and rips you down. You are in the midst of an epic spiritual battle between the advocate and the accuser, and the battlefront is your mind. Have you been listening to the accuser who tells you you're broken and can't be fixed? Your marriage isn't worth fighting for. You don't matter. The whole story of your life is defined by the worst page. The advocate wants you to face today with the confidence and security that comes from knowing you're a beloved child of God, a God who has your best interest in mind and who has destined you for eternal glory. Which voice will you listen to? Whose side are you going to be on today? This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Renew your faith, renew your spirit, and receive the most precious gift of time with our Lord. Stand Tall, an unforgettable retreat, is coming to the St. Bernard Abbey in Cullman, Alabama, February 9th through 11th. Join Take Two's own Jerry Usher and Debbie Georgianni for a spirit-filled weekend, including a visit to the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacrament, Mass with the Benedictine monks, an evening campfire celebration, and talks by Jerry and Debbie. Space is limited, so register today at jerryanddebbie.com.
Back to the phones we shall go. We're talking today about how do you unplug, and you are definitely instructing us, inspiring us, and motivating us, and encouraging us to definitely unplug and get that pendulum back to center. I think that's awesome. I like the term, Jerry, going off the grid. I think it's such a cool term. I've often said that. I said, I'm going off the grid this weekend. Nobody call me. I don't want to hear from anybody. Okay, we want to hear what Sarah has to say in Indianapolis, Indiana, listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good,
How are
Sarah.
you? Happy New Year.
Doing good. Happy New Year to you, too. I'm just driving in the car, so I like my time in the car as well, just like you said. So nice. Get a lot of thinking time in. So
Awesome.
Do you listen to music, or is it just quiet in the car?
Just quiet. But yeah, I just got this new car with Sirius XM and the radio, so I was just listening to you guys for the first time. So I heard you guys talking about being unplugged, and I'm 29, so I'm in the younger generation where technology is pretty important, social media and being connected all the time. And I actually found myself just being addicted to my phone and Facebook and Instagram, and just always, when you have a free moment, instead of just, being present with people around you, or, just the situation you're in, I feel like it's just easy just to get on there and scroll through Facebook or, text somebody. So I ended up, getting rid of it completely and going to a flip phone and not having texting. And my husband actually did it too with me, so we both have flip phones.
Wow. That is really remarkable, Sarah. I don't know, Debbie, this is, you don't hear, as she was talking, I was just thinking of a possible show topic, something like, can you go back? Once you've, we just lost Sarah.
Oh, Sarah.
If you're still listening, Sarah, it looks like that flip phone might have just dropped the connection there.
Yeah, flipped closed.
But yeah, I actually had this thought going through my head, Debbie, for a show topic.
Tell me the show. I'll write it down.
Can you go back? Once you have gone down that road of being sort of plugged in so many different ways, can you sort of, obviously you can, but Sarah she and her husband are an example.
Perfect example.
How they kind of had sort of like, I would call it, Debbie, kind of a spiritual awakening, if you will. Again, as one of our previous callers said, nothing at all wrong with having, the gadgets and the devices and all of that, but just recognizing, that we need to be in control of them and not vice versa.
Right. Did you were you listening to that spot by Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers where he talked about the gap time?
Gap time,
and he uses his gap time in order to spiritually grow, to form himself continuously. It's very interesting because when I was listening to Sarah, I was thinking to myself, in this day and age, we use the gap time as a time to run to Facebook and check, to see what posts have come in and where, what we can reply to and what's going on. And it's very interesting how we replace that when we have those precious stolen moments during the day. They really should be moments that we really take time to feed our souls. I agree with Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers so very, very much. That's perfect that he said that. And I love, Sarah had dropped, but Sarah, God bless you for you and your husband making that leap of just kind of faith that you can exist without texting and have the flip phones and everything's going to be just perfectly fine and you'll have more quality time with one another. I think it's awesome. Way to go. I often say this, but I mean this, Sarah. I wish we could bottle you and send you all around the country to teach others how to do the same thing. So thank you so much, Sarah, for calling in if you're listening still.
Phone number, we have very, very busy lines here. We're going to get to as many of you as we can. 1-800-585-9396. Again, folks, this isn't about saying put your gadgets down or anything like that, but maybe occasionally. And I'm as guilty as anybody of not unplugging, getting out, and just really letting the Holy Spirit fill me, renew me, refresh me. I need to do more of that. So how do you do that? Do you camp? Do you hike? Do you fish? Do you hunt? Do you go to adoration? Are you involved with, like one of our previous callers, with Cub Scouts or something? What is your preferred method of really just allowing the Holy Spirit to refresh and renew you? Joan is going to weigh in next in Fort Collins, Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio. Hi, Joan. Thank you for calling.
Hi. I just love your show. You guys, I learned so much.
Oh, well,
thank you, Joan.
You and the other callers are the teachers, Joan, so thank you for joining us.
Well, it's interesting because the way I refresh is I teach school 2 days a week. I'm 71, and I teach math for half days, middle school, and pre-algebra, and that's my main thing. And then I go on the alternate days when I'm not teaching, I go to adoration, and it's those are the 2 times of the day that I can completely turn off my phone. Nobody can call me, nothing, and I love it. And I love teaching. Everybody says, you should retire. You're getting old, and I think no, I can't do that because God's called me to that, and that's my refreshment. I mean, I know when I'm up there that He is right there with me in such an amazing way. So I teach in a Christian school, and I can, He just inspires me with these little things that I can tell the kids about how God has just developed this math, and the more you get into it, the more you see God, and it's so cool, and I just love middle school kids, so that's how I relax.
Nice. That is beautiful. I have to say something, Joan. Thank you so much for teaching the middle school. age group. You said you at a Christian school. I love how you brought God into your work. I think that is wonderful. But you care so much, and for you to devote that time to the middle school age, I think is just precious. Thank you for doing that. My graduate degree in theology was in adolescent spirituality, and the middle school is when a lot of vocations are discerned. So, Joan, you're making an impact. So that's more not just work, but that's ministry. And for you to go to adoration the other days, boy, you're just spiritually filling yourself. I think it's just an absolute perfect recipe to really live in this crazy world, because we're bombarded in this it really is a crazy world sometimes, and for you to have that regimen of teaching the children that vocational call, and then to go to adoration, I think it's a win-win all the way around, Jerry.
Well, and I love your youthfulness, Joan. You said I'm 71, and some people have said that you should retire and walk away from this and all of that. You don't sound like anybody who's nearly ready to do that. And I just think of so many, Joan, you know the characters in the Bible, too, that I would mention. Abraham and Sarah, they had a child, late in life, and they were part of God's purpose and mission, and so many examples. I mean, age is, in a sense, just a number, and you are living such a youthful life now, and I'm sure being around those kids, would you say, Joan, is part of what keeps you young and vibrant and active in all of this?
Oh, most definitely. I didn't start teaching until I was in my 50s. And God called me to this. I mean, there is just no mistaking it. This is what he wanted me to do. And, people say, how can you teach middle school kids? Well, I've not grown up yet. And so I can, I can hardly wait to get back to school, because my favorite Christmas present this year was a Star Wars license plate thing that says my other ride is the Millennium Falcon. The kids think I'm nuts, and that's fine. I've just not grown up, and I don't intend to. I mean, I don't want to get old.
You're like Jerry and me. We have the Peter Pan theory, so you're in a good company.
yeah, it's great. I mean, I can be my crazy self, and the kids love it, and I relate to them really well. And I just think middle school kids are great.
Oh, yeah.
They are just great.
They're
full
of personality.
To know stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're smart enough to start thinking abstractly, but not so smart that they think they know it all yet.
Right.
That's always
which is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
God bless you, Joan.
I love it.
You are awesome. Many more years
Joan.
teaching, Joan.
Thanks for sharing with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I wanted to share, Debbie, you're going to appreciate several aspects of this. Matilda on Facebook, EWTN Catholic Radio Facebook, said, I unplug when I drive my car, just like you, Debbie. She says, I pray a lot. When I have to enter I-35, I pray and ask my guardian angel to let me enter the freeway without trouble.
Nice.
She says, I love the scenery around the valley. Praise the Lord, seeing the vacas. That's a type of cow, because she puts a couple cow images on here. The vacas in peace resting. It says it refreshes my mind, and I give thanks to God. Praise the Lord for the wonderful thing He gave us, and driving in peace. It helps me a lot. Thank you, Matilda, for posting that. And Rick says on Facebook, I go to adoration chapels all over the USA, and he says there's an app for that. So I'm going to have to look for that Adoration Chapel app. That sounds really cool.
To find out where there's a perpetual adoration? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm familiar with masstimes.org, but I didn't know there was an Adoration Chapel app.
Yep. And I wonder if that's the same Rick that just weighed in, who waited half of the show to get on from Kentucky. Rick, we're so sorry you dropped. If you call back, we'll get you to the front of the line for sure. But maybe you just weighed in via. Was that through Facebook, Jerry?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can I just share something really quickly? Because talking about angels, I just want to share this real fast. EWTN Publishing has just an amazing opportunity for all of us, and that's this great new book that is Mother Angelica on God, His Home, and His Angels. And I just wanted to share this because it contains 5 mini books that that are authored by Mother Angelica, written when she was in adoration. So we've been talking about adoration. We talked about angels, and it's just incredible. And she also addresses some other issues in it about what angels are really like, what are we going to feel and sense in heaven, and what kind of experience, what would it be like, the experience of, wait, let me read this. What would it be like to experience the void before creation? Oh, interesting. I never even thought of that. Wow. Mother Angelica on God, His home, and His angels. I think it's a fascinating compilation. I think it's a great opportunity. If you want to get this book, just go to EWTNRC.com and you can get that book right there. I just had to share that because we were talking about adoration and angels. Okay, back to the phones. Jeannie has been waiting so patiently in Toledo, Ohio, listening on Annunciation Radio. Hi, Jeannie. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Can you hear me? Happy
We
New
can
Year to you. Thank
hear you very
Can
well.
you hear me okay?
Just fine, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So this is fun to listen to this. My answer to the question is that I run outside year-round, even in the winter months. I live in Ohio, and I find that running and being in nature keeps me grounded, and I don't take my phone with me. Some of my running friends, and I think a lot of people do take their phone, but I don't. I don't listen to music when I run. I like to hear nature. So to me, my running is my escape and my way to refresh and reminds me of God's blessings. Just simply that, just being outdoors and running does it for me.
Debbie, do you run?
I ran for many years, Jeannie. I used to do half marathons. Yeah, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah. There's something about being out there. In fact, as you were speaking, I was missing it, and it's an incredible experience just to be in nature and be connected to nature, because you're physically connected. You know, as your feet are hitting the ground, you're connected to this beautiful earth, and it's. Wow, Jeannie, and you live in a great area too, because you have some really beautiful, crisp weather and beautiful air, and I think it's wonderful. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and another thing I wanted to comment on listening to, I think the 29-year-old, maybe Sarah. So I have a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old, and it's really hard for me to disconnect from my phone because that's how I communicate with my young adult children. You know, unfortunately, I have to stay connected to my phone because that's pretty much how we stay connected. Because my 18-year-old and 20-year-old don't live at home, so it's really hard to not pay attention when that texting beep goes off.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I was just going to say, Jeannie, as we pointed out on the show a couple times here, this is this discussion isn't necessarily about not using those things. In fact, I would say God gives us technology like this for many, many purposes. It can be used or misused, and I think one of the great uses of it is for exactly what you're saying. For you to be able to stay closely connected with your kids who you love so much and you care so much about. So I think the good and proper and healthy uses of technology, that is definitely one of them. So I think, I'm not saying that you feel bad about that or anything, but there's certainly no reason to, because I think that's a great use of it. But like you said, you don't take the phone with you when you want to get that sort of that down, that quiet time, that refreshing time. And so I think you've got a really good balance. What do you think, Deb?
I agree. I totally agree. And Jeannie, I got really creative recently. Instead of text messaging I think is great, but it can be overused, and it's just this quick communication that's constantly happening. I really started to get into FaceTiming, which I tell you, I really love, because I love seeing that other person and their face and their mannerisms, and I'm a very visual person, and so I don't know if you do that with your two children, but it's kind of cool just to, instead of texting like maybe all day long, just set aside maybe 5 or 10 minutes and FaceTime. Do you guys do that?
Well, actually, I did just yesterday with my 18-year-old.
You did, yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Yes, and it felt kind of strange because I didn't know I was actually FaceTiming until she said, yes, Mom, look at the phone here because I'm FaceTiming you. And I was not feeling well, and I felt, my hair was a mess and all this jazz. And her friend was there, so I was kind of embarrassed. But then I'm like, oh, don't be embarrassed. It's fine. So, yeah, that's a really good point. I will try to do that more, especially with my 20-year-old. I think that's a good point.
Great.
Oh,
thanks so
Jeannie.
much, Jeannie.
Yeah. And run
God
for
bless
me,
you.
Jeannie. Run for me, Jeannie. I got to lose about 20 more pounds, but I'm going to go back to running. I promise.
All right. I've run probably thousands of miles in my life, but it was all with a basketball bouncing off the floor in front of me. So I could never get into running. I just did not have the desire, the stamina, whatever. But boy, you give me a basketball, I could have run for hours, and I did sometimes until now my knees would never take that anymore. All right, we got Rick back, Debbie. Rick did call us back from Bradenburg, Kentucky. Rick, thanks so much for dialing us back in. Sorry we lost you there for a second, but welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Hi, Rick.
Hello, Jerry, Debbie.
Howdy.
Appreciate you call.
Sure.
Yeah, I've been just so blessed. Life is busy between church and family and work. But every fall, my wife has allowed me to go on this archery elk hunt in the mountains out west, and it's totally out of phone range. And my tradition that really sets the tone is I'll take off up the mountains at it might even be 3 or 4 in the morning in the dark, and I start with a rosary, and it is just so peaceful, and you see just so much of God in the nature and up in the mountains, and it's just wonderful.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah. And Rick, the thing you said you're in, is it Brandenburg, Kentucky that you're in right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you say out west, is that like western part of Kentucky, or do you go out like in the western U.S.? Where exactly do you when you say out west?
It's in Colorado.
Oh, in Colorado. Okay. Wow. I'll bet that is absolutely stunning.
Yeah. And it's something to look forward to all year long. I mean, I just love doing stuff with my family and real busy at work and at church, but it just gives you that one thing to look forward to, and just to no phones, just God and nature.
Wow. I know.
Well, and Rick, this is, you mentioned archery, elk hunting. I mean, a lot of people, when we think of hunting, they think of guns and so forth. Archery is a very different, unique,
precision sport.
Not that, gun hunting isn't, doesn't take precision and skill and all of that. But how do you find, the archery aspect of this, just sort of helping you sort of kind of close everything else out of your mind? You got to really focus and be very, very attentive to what you're doing and very precise in what you're doing, I would think.
You really do. And I've been doing it for, I guess, 25, 30 years, and I've been very successful. We've ate a lot of elk, but you really have to get so in tune and so quiet, and the more years you do it, the more you learn about their habits, and you literally get to get in with the herd, so to speak.
Wow.
and kind of travel with them through the thick, dark timber, and it's just so unique. It's wonderful, and it's so much more than just harvesting an elk.
Right, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I caught this. When's your next trip, Rick?
It'll be next September.
Oh, okay. So next September. Wow. You'll have to call us after it and let us know, what experiences you've had. And I think that's wonderful. After you get done with the trip, do you find yourself kind of racing back to the phone just to make sure everything's safe at home?
Not really. I mean, not a race. I just, God has taken care of us for so many years. I mean, I try to make sure every couple of days or so I can get in touch with my wife and maybe my kids, but they know that I come back a better person, and it's just a blessing. It really is.
Yeah, and like you said, they know that that delicious elk meat that's going to be in that freezer for probably until the next year's hunt is going to be providing them with great food and nourishment as well. Rick, thanks for calling back in. You called in twice today. Sorry we lost you the first time, but we appreciate you joining us. A blessed New Year to you, and thank you for being part of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Marcy, thank you. Wow, you get our Patience Award today, Marcy, in Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Marcy. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. How are you?
I'm good, Jerry and Debbie. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.
I've talked to you folks before. Listening to this talk, though, their topic, I find for myself that when I go down to the large hospital in downtown Cleveland where I volunteer as a Eucharistic minister, that the time I spend visiting the patients is my time away, because I'm literally taking Jesus for a walk, and I get to share Jesus with the patients that want to receive him. That's how I disconnect. That's my time away. And of course, on the floor, we're not allowed to have our phones on. We can have them with us, but we can't have them, audible. So that's how I disconnect.
Go ahead, Deb. I've got something. Go ahead.
I just have to say real quickly, Marcy, when I was privileged to be able to take communion to my dad when he was ill and at home, homebound, it's amazing the experience when you're carrying Jesus with you. I found myself talking to him in the car. Have you ever done that?
Well, I have, but not when I'm doing this, because we have a chapel at the hospital where I go, so we don't need to carry in the Eucharist. But yes, I've done that when I've brought it to friends of mine that have been sick and homebound. Oh yeah, I talk to them all the time.
Yeah, and I've had the blessing to be able to do that as well. And you know what I do, Marcy, is I will usually put the picks in my shirt pocket, and that's of course right over my heart. And what I will do is I will actually put my hand on there and just press the picks to my heart, and I just say prayers, Jesus, heal me, bless me, touch me, because like you said, you're taking Jesus for a walk. The purpose is to take him to somebody else, but you've got that intimate time with him on the way.
Right.
And what a precious gift that is for you, Marcy.
Right, and it's not just the patients that I'm encountering, it's the employees, it's the doctors, it's the nurses, it's the staff. And, so I try to reflect Jesus' presence to them as well, whether it's by a smile or a nod or, a few words, but, that I want to approach them as Jesus would approach them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Beautiful. What a great ministry.
Yeah.
Marcy, that's awesome. Many more years doing that. You're touching so many souls.
I hope so, God willing.
Thank you, Marcy. Bless you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. So Sonia in Ohio and Luann in Denver and Brian in Indianapolis, we're so sorry. And the others, we are very, very sorry. But we're noticing that we got a lot of nature lovers. A lot of people love to drive. A lot of people like to get out in nature. And that's wonderful.
Cheryl on Facebook said, I like to sit on my deck, look at the trees and listen to the birds sing and be filled with awe in knowing how great God's love is. And Barbara in Florida says, I love this question. Every night I go out and look at the stars and moon, and I wake up early each morning and get out and look up. So Barbara and Cheryl, thanks for weighing in. Wow, another great week of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
And we want to invite you to the Stand Tall retreat. We're going to be out in nature as well. The St. Bernard Abbey has beautiful campus grounds. You'll love it. So visit jerryanddebbie.com. Check out the agenda. Maybe sign up for the retreat. We'd love to get to know you better. We have a best of on Saturday. We're excited about that. And Monday is all about gratitude, Jerry.
Looking forward to that. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.